Hello.
Hey, what's going on, dudes?
Good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So what do you think? How do you think they were died?
Uh, fuck.
All three of them. All three of them died, and you
I
were like,
think that it
"Oh,
has something to. Okay, now we're getting into the deep psychological problem of Ushirmi Eva. A sub-personality split off from her when she was a young child, and she projects, and this is her persona, and she uses this persona to interact with the world in such a way that she believes she has full reign over others, the way other people live their lives. This is the same as how, uh, what is it called? How postmodernists uh, try to control language in this way. They believe they have the inner vision, but they do not. They are misguided by a neuroses, and this is fucking weird. Okay, I'm just gonna talk normally now. I think Kraus and actually maybe just Kraus is influencing Ava in some way to have her. Like the reason I think it's Kraus is because Kraus knows about the gold. People said that he's crafty. He's kind of like his business is predicated on making predictions, like predicting that there will be an influx in what is it called? In like travel and like resorts. He predicted that,
yeah."
but his prediction was a little bit early. I think it's the same thing with the gold.
We need to read the tips for the Chiester sisters.
For the what?
For the Chiester sisters.
I don't think they're in yet, are they?
Yep, I have them right here. I can read them. Chester 4 or 5. A weapon in a contract with Beatrice. 4 or 5 has a methodical and timid personality, as well as a fairly strong persecution complex. Thanks to that, she's well suited to shoring up the weaknesses of 410's rough personality when they work as a pair. She can't stand silence, so she'll often become emotionally insecure if she isn't being ordered around by someone constantly. 45 excels in search and decision-making capabilities. The support she provides doubles the combative force of the sisters. And Chester 410, a weapon in a contract with Beatrice. 410 is a kid with a strong personality whose peculiar style of speech tends to make light of people. She likes laughing at people who are serious or can never relax, which is why she's so fond of 4-5 and Lucifer. Her choice of words may be coarse, but she loves company and gets lonely easily. She gets depressed if there isn't someone talking with her constantly. 410 is particularly skilled when it comes to firing control, and she can wield unparalleled combative force, even in close-range fighting.
Cool.
Okay, so what were you saying?
I don't know.
Do you think it's Kraus?
I think it's Kraus influencing Ava to like solve the epitaph, and like I don't know how he does it, how he would do it.
Magic.
No, not magic. In some way, no. It's hard to think about, but I think. You see, that's what my intuition is telling me. Is like that. Is that it's Kraus. Kraus is the mastermind, and Ava's the puppet, and she can't even see that she's the puppet.
30 minutes had already passed since Rudolph's group had left the guest house. By any measure, their return was too late, and Klaus and Natsui, who waited by the entrance, were reaching the limits of their patience. The chain was set on the door. That was a precaution in the event that Rudolph's group was attacked and the master key stolen from them. For that reason, they needed to wait by the entrance like this for the others to return.
They really are too late. Don't you think something might have happened to them?
Indeed. Haha.
Klaus glanced between his watch and the door, struggling to keep his composure.
If something happened to prevent them from returning.
A terrible thought, but it's wait, shit, I'm mixing up all these accents. a terrible... Fuck. What a fucking gay. A terrible thought, but it seems... Shit, I'm doing the fucking Swiss accent / German accent, dude. I can't stop it. Terrible thought, but it seems we should ready ourselves for that possibility. Fuck. So, we... Jeez. Help me out here, dude. I can't speak.
What are you doing?
I know, it's hard. Give me a second. Let me get into character.
Okay.
So, it really was two records after all.
That is what I said. Why did they go outside when they knew it was this dangerous? How foolish. Why go outside even though Rosa had just been attacked?
Nothing will come of saying that now. At any rate, there are now 3 adults in the guest house. Me, you, and Eva, who's asleep with a high fever. Wait, then, if she's asleep with a high fever, maybe she's not actually there and she just left. Or maybe, I don't fucking know, dude.
At that time, the forceful sound of a door being opened came from the hallway, and they heard Ava's panicked voice. That voice kept calling out Hideyoshi's name. It seemed as though she'd had a bad dream or something due to her fever and was calling for her husband.
Ava, what is it? Are you okay?
Where is my husband? My husband isn't here, even though he promised that he'd stay with me the whole time. Even though he promised that he'd grasp my hand the whole time.
Klaus was struck dumb by this attitude of hers, which she had never shown in front of him before, but Natsui understood her feelings.
Calm down. Hideyoshi is with Rudolph and Kiri, and they're outside right now.
Outside? Why? Why did he go outside? After he promised that he'd stay with me the whole time. You mustn't go outside. The witch is outside. You mustn't go. You'll be killed. Whoa. Ava, calm yourself. Hideyoshi's returned to the mansion with Rudolph and Kiri. Wait, what? Why did he have to go to the mansion? Why did he go outside even though he's safe here? Why did he go back to the mansion? They went outside. They went to get enough food to last until tomorrow. Hideyoshi was worried about your health and said that it was partly where he wanted to go. When will they come back? When will they come back? Don't go outside. Don't go to the rose garden. Don't go to the mansion. The witch is there. The golden witch is walking about. If she finds you, you'll be killed. You'll definitely be killed. When will my husband come back?
They left here 30 minutes ago. We are waiting for their return.
30 minutes ago? Isn't that strange? Why would it take so much time for them to go to the mansion to get food and come back? And why are you two just standing around here? We have to go and get them. We have to hurry to where they are. Eek.
Ava probably had quite a nightmare. And because it continued even after she woke up, she could no longer hide her panic. Natsui tried calming her down, but all it did was make Ava's emotions explode even more. Maybe they heard that disturbance. Batwa and the kids, who had supposedly been on the second floor, were peeking their faces through the crack of the lobby door.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Klaus, Natsui, Ava, and Batwa, George, Jessica, and Anjo. Everyone in the guest house had gathered by the entrance and understood the current situation.
I agree with Mother. We should go to check Father and the rest. Yeah, that's right. It's even possible that the load's too heavy and they're having trouble carrying it. They should welcome some extra hands.
This happened right after Rosa was attacked. This may have been a secondary disaster connected to that. We should act with caution here and...
Don't be a fool. What do you mean, caution? Are you saying we should let my husband die, even though he might be begging for help? I'm going to look and the cowards can stay here.
Looking agitated, Ava raised her gun. Judging by her face, it would be useless for anyone to try and stop her. George, who realized that first, raised his head.
I'll go as well. You will too, right, Battler? The more people, the better. Sure. And Ava, we're coming, even if you tell us not to. I'm coming too. I can't be the only one to hide in a safe place.
Jessica, you must not go outside. Stay here with me. Got it?
It was like they were implying that those three had already been killed anyway, so going outside would be pointless. That's when we realized that Ava felt like her heart had been gouged out, but she spoke out strongly as Jessica's mother.
You're right, that should be fine. Let's have Nissan's family keep an eye on the guest house. This is a problem for my family and Battlers, and I wonder if Dr. Nanja would mind coming too, just in case.
No, I'll stay here.
Yoshi, oh! No!
In the hall of the mansion, Batwa, Ava, George, and Angel found the corpses of Rudolph, Kyrie, and Hideyoshi.
4 through 6 twilights, then the corpses were pierced through the forehead, chest, and stomach with those demon stakes.
Yes, the demon stakes were buried into them, one in Rudolph's forehead, one in Hideyoshi's chest, and one in Kyrie's stomach. The disorder of the clothing on all three suggests that they were fighting or running away. Since the three corpses were not found right next to each other, it is hypothesized that after coming into contact with the culprit, they attempted some form of resistance.
And they had stakes in the forehead, chest, and stomach. Horrible. Just like usual.
Even though Ronave knew it would be superfluous, he contemplated telling Battler the truth.
The truth.
Normally, the witch would have killed them in a much more horrible way. The corpses had been left in this manner only because Beato had suggested to the witch that she show restraint. The new witch, thinking it would fit well enough as long as she gouged them with stakes, would probably have just stuck a stake into a lump of meat that wasn't even shaped like a human. Rosa's and Maria's corpses were a particularly striking example. If they'd been killed as the Golden Witch had wished, just how gruesome would the corpses have been? Beato had changed that into the still better kind of killing Battler had mentioned earlier. Okay, let's read the tips.
Okay. Tips. Oh, yeah. Tips. What tips?
Or the character.
Oh, right. Because
I'll read Hideyoshi and Kyrie, and then you read Rudolph. Shiramiya Hideyoshi died in the hall of the mansion, his chest pierced by a stake-shaped weapon. That was careless of me. Didn't think you were still alive. Shiramiya Kyrie died in the hall of the mansion, her stomach pierced by a stake-shaped weapon. The stomach isn't a particularly lethal spot. Isn't it enough to just kill her in some other, easier way and stick a stake in her corpse?
Wow. Yoshimiya Rudolph died in the hall of the mansion with his forehead pierced by a weapon shaped like a stake. Apparently they've got to be finished off with stakes from here on out. Gross. Ha.
Okay. Wanting to have Beato's small bit of thoughtfulness appreciated, he thought of telling Battler about this. But judging by Battler's eyes, that might do more harm than good. To humans, the gap between being alive and being dead is very large. Saying that she'd given them better deaths might have made it possible for a demon to understand her feelings and pardon her. But there was no way a human would be so accepting. Understanding this, Ronave remained silent despite knowing of Beato's modest efforts.
Just like usual, let's start by checking whether the corpses are dead. Ronave, please declare it in red. Hey, can't you hear me? Please declare it in red. Repeat it. Rudolph, Kyrie, and Hideyoshi are dead.
My apologies. My apologies. Allow me to decline from repeating that.
The hell? What are you planning all of a sudden?
By now, proclaiming that the victims were dead in red was almost a given in this battle. Refusing to do that was almost like losing by default, so when Ronave refused as part of his first move, Battler was dumbfounded. My apologies. As of this moment, I have relinquished my position as Milady's representative. Accordingly, I cannot repeat that in red. The only one qualified to repeat that is Milady.
Damn.
His point is a valid one. Ronove is only a representative for Beato's side. If he steps down from that position, and if you will not accept Beato as an opponent, a new representative must be named. No new representative exists. Please, battler. Please accept Milady as your game partner once more.
Sorry, but that's advice I can't listen to. I definitely won't accept that unpleasant, cruel bastard as my opponent. My refusal to accept her is why I can't step down from this game.
As to her being unpleasant, I apologize in Milady's stead. Allow me to pledge that Milady will not undertake such unpleasant actions again.
Well, I wonder about that.
Battler, I also want to apologize to that child's teacher. I'll give that child a good talking to, so please offer your forgiveness just this once.
Hey, enough of that. You're making it sound like I'm the bad guy. And no matter how much you guys apologize, it won't reach my ears. If Beato can say that from her own lips, well, I might listen to her.
Understood. If that is your only condition for acknowledging your opponent again, let us have that child apologize. Ronove, call for that child. Will that be alright, Beatler?
Sheesh, do whatever you want. Still, don't expect me to forgive her. Even though that's literally the thing that he said would make him talk to her again. I'm not sure. I was just... Whatever. Go get that irritating witch.
You have my thanks, Battler. I shall summon her here. Milady, Battler is calling for you.
Was it like a telephone?
After a few heartbeats, gold butterflies gathered together in midair and created Beato's form. It was a much more docile appearance than the one she'd made before. Did you call, Ronove? I believe you heard. Is there something you have to say from your own lips? It looked as though Beato shrunk slightly under Battler's cold gaze. Several times, Beato made an effort to get the words out of her mouth. But that didn't work so well, and she was just as awkward as someone trying to light a match during a freezing winter with icy hands. Even as she did that, the game board was advancing. In the hall, they had just found the corpses of the new victims and had broken down crying.
Oh no, I gotta play the crybaby again. Come on.
You have to click a few times.
Kyrie. Dear. Mother, hang in there. Even for me, it's so crushing, so sad.
They probably... That's fucking Hideyoshi's voice. They probably died instantly. I'm sure that even if we had arrived immediately after they fell, it would have been too late.
No, that's wrong. They were definitely alive. His chest was stabbed with something like this. My husband must have died in extreme pain. If we had come faster, surely they would have been saved. They would definitely have been saved. It must be tough for you too, Battler, but stay strong. I'm okay. It's okay, Aniki. Let me cry just a little bit longer. I've got it the best. I should be the least sad. So if you let me cry just a little longer, I'll be fine. That isn't true. I can understand how much it must hurt your heart to have lost both parents, or still have mother. That's much better than what you're going through, Battler. No, that's wrong. It's gotta be toughest for you, George. I understand, Aniki. In this group, you're the saddest, and the one who has it toughest. I understand that, so I can't keep on sobbing like this. Why do you say it's toughest for me? To me, Dad and Kyrie were people I'd eventually split up with when I grew and became independent. Since their parents, I was fated that they die before their kids. It just happened a little early, that's all. But it's different for you, Aniki. You didn't just lose your parents who would have parted ways with you eventually. You also lost Shannon, someone you should have spent the rest of your life with. You can't value human lives differently. Whether it's a baby or an old person, they should all be respected the same, principium individuationis. But still, the more life that person has ahead of them, the longer the future you're building together is, the sadder the fact of their death is. Aniki, you were engaged to Shannon, right? You promised that you'd build a life and a home together in the future, right? Compared to how huge that future was, compared to how huge the happiness was, stuff like my pain doesn't even come close. So you should be allowed to cry much, much more, Aniki. And yet, just because you act like a big brother to us cousins, you force yourself to act like you're so calm. Stop it, Bada.
George was trying to make a calm smile. But already he couldn't stop a single hot tear from weaving a streak down his face.
There's no way I wouldn't be sad, right? Together with Shannon, I painted a picture of many futures in my mind. We talked of dreams that couldn't all come true even if we lived 100 years. Of those dreams, even the very first ones, having to move into my family register could not be granted. So there's no way I wouldn't be sad, right? Compared to that, like I said, I have no right to cry anymore. When even you're struggling to hold it in, I have no right to shed any more tears. We're the same. We both feel the sadness from losing those close to us. So there's no rule that says you can't shed any more tears than me, Battler. And for me too, there's no rule that says I have to hold back my tears any longer. Is there? Aniki. Shannon, the only one who shared my dreams for the future, is dead. Father's dead too. It's so sad. So sad.
As Babla and George hugged each other tightly, they cried a waterfall of tears over each other's shoulders for the people who had been so precious to them.
Damn, that's powerful shit, dude. Do you understand why I said that George has it the toughest?
I was listening, so I understand. Your sadness is proportional to the length of time you would have been able to spend with that person afterwards.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Huh. Of course you can't calculate it just like that, though. We humans aren't like you witches. From the time we receive life to the moment we die, we live life within that limited period as strongly as we can manage. I can't forgive anyone who makes light of that, and I definitely can't forgive anyone who sneers at people and toys with them. A person like you, whose very concept of death is all screwed up, probably can't understand that. I'm not just mad because of the length of time they would have lived afterwards. It's sneering at the lives of people with all they've got. That's what I can't forgive the most. George lived his life by recklessly doing his best. He must have appreciated this day with a grim resolve to marry Shannon, no matter the challenges. That's completely different from me, since I was happy just to be able to meet my cousins after a long while.
But still. Beato, for now, stay silent and listen. Indeed.
In a way, I understand your point. You say you need to continue murdering according to the epitaph for your own resurrection. So, considering your circumstances, I could just barely bring myself to understand your murders. Because to you, it's a necessary course of action. But that means all unnecessary actions you take beyond that are due to your meaningless and brutal tastes. In other words, If killing the 6 people for the first twilight was a necessary action for you, then all that show of crushing their faces and splitting their stomachs and stuffing them full of sweets was completely unnecessary and caused nothing more than your brutal hobby. That's an aspect of you that I definitely cannot forgive.
Indeed.
Oh, tear. When you saw Aunt Rosa getting repeatedly killed in a horrible way, you apparently said something like, if they're going to be brought back to life in the end anyway, it doesn't matter how they're killed. I heard from Virgilia, you sick freak.
Well, as to that,
That idea that you can kill them as many times as you want, as long as you bring them back to life in the end, isn't that a completely unnecessary action with no purpose other than to toy down with someone's life? If you're going to kill, do it instantly. Don't toy with them. If you won't kill them, then don't bully them. You're taking advantage of the fact you can do as you will with people's lives, and you've forgotten the sanctity of life. So I can't accept or acknowledge you. I definitely can't accept I definitely can't accept as my opponent a person who doesn't know the value of a life, or the sadness felt when lives are lost.
that is why the endless magic is known as a black art. The endless witch has no concept of limitations. She has no concept of the limitations and losses caused by breaking and killing. For that reason, endless witches sometimes start playing by jumping over the gap between life and death, like it's a game. That is a very, very frightening thing. So, as an endless witch, and by my own choosing, I never reached your level. It was something Virgilia had been trying to tell Beato for a long time. But Beato had been too young to obediently listen to those words. She had been too wild. She had been possessed by that detestable pleasure. I have been told not to break vases, but that's why I wanted to break them. Then I gained the endless magic. When I knew that I could fix them back to normal no matter how badly I broke them, I was surprised at how fun it could be to break a vase. That is what's known as the forbidden honey. People are now captivated by what's inside. They are captivated by the sealed lock. It is truly regrettable.
I want to ask you, Virgilia, why does this thing called the endless magic exist? For what purpose does it exist in this world?
It is not limited to the endless magic. All magic exists to bring happiness to the human world. After everything that has happened, it may be difficult for you to believe, Battler, but in order to bring blessings to the human world, we witches are supposed to become bridges between humans and non-humans, and that is why we train so hard.
How does reviving the dead and torturing them to death over and over help with the human world? Help the human world.
When the vase that was an important memento is broken, if by fixing it everyone will regain their smiles, I would repair it with magic as many times as necessary. However, I would not be fixing it in order to break it again. I would be reviving it to give humans happiness.
In that case, Beato, you fail as an endless witch.
Indeed.
There's this thing I've been vaguely thinking about. Why do I keep playing this strange game against you? Maybe this game isn't about making me surrender. Maybe it's a test for you to be accepted as an endless witch in the truest sense.
I don't know about that. The reason I proposed this game to you was, simply as a way to kill time. There were no ulterior motives at work.
Just now I heard the definition of a witch from Virgilia. By that definition, you, Beato, are not even a witch. You're an apprentice who's still in training and who misunderstands her own power. This was supposed to be a fight between a witch and a human. If you aren't a witch, then you aren't qualified to be my opponent. Understand?
You say I am still only an apprentice? Then when will I be accepted as your opponent once again? When can we resume this game?
Who knows? At the very least, it isn't now. Well, what? When you fully understand what I've said and become a real witch, I'll probably accept you as my opponent in this game once more.
I can't understand if you say it so abstractly like that. Clearly tell me what I should do to earn your forgiveness.
No. I've said enough. You think about the rest. That's all I want to say. If you can't figure it out, try talking with Virgilia and Ronave. A brat like you should start by listening to what the adults say. Virgilia, suspend the game for now. Now that Ronave has stepped down as a representative, all we can do is wait for Beato to gain the qualifications of a proper opponent.
Understood. Until Beato has been acknowledged as having earned those qualifications, the game will proceed without an opponent. Is that all right with you too, Beato? I have no objections. I want time, and a place where I can think at a leisurely pace. May I leave my seat for that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well then, see you later.
Wait! Don't make that dejected face.
Sorry about that. Letting everything inside my heart show up on my face is part of my personality. I cannot deceive.
Then maybe there's still some hope for you. Let me promise you one thing. In this game with you, I might win and I might lose. If you don't come back, it might be my victory by default.
At that point, Battler stopped talking for a second. Then he spoke forcefully.
However, I definitely won't be the one to step down. I definitely won't give you a victory by default. I'll keep on waiting here for you to sit there again as my worthy opponent.
Battler. Thank you, Battler. I will definitely come back and be accepted by you. After showing a hopeful smile for a very short while, Beato vanished. After seeing her expression as she left, Battler was absolutely convinced that her face could tell no lies. The 7 survivors returned to the guest house once again. By now it was clear that those who went outside would not return alive. Rudolph's group had gone out with 2 guns and a master key, but those had been lost. It was already clear that those had been stolen by the culprit. Because the shutters were closed on the windows, they couldn't be opened even if the culprit had a master key. The front and back doors that led to the outside were all sealed by chains, and they were further blocked with sofas and tables. Even if the culprit decided to break in through violent means, it wouldn't be easy for them.
At this point, the typhoon might actually be fortunate. If it were clear outside, it might have been possible for him to set fire to the guest house. If there wasn't a typhoon in the first place, the boat would have arrived before noon. That's not much of a silver lining.
Ava, how do you feel? Please try to take it easy.
Thank you. I still feel like I have a fever, but this is no time to complain about that. For the children's sake as well, this is no time to be bedridden.
After crying so much in front of Hideyoshi's corpse, Ava had felt a strong self-awareness of her position as a mother, and her expression conveyed a strong will. In actual fact, her fever still hadn't gone down, and she was aware of that. If she didn't keep a strong hold on herself, she felt as though the fever would make her mind hazy again. By this point, the first 4 formed a final line of defense set up by Kraus, Natsui, and Ava. The children and the guest, Nanjo, had been strongly warned not to go downstairs without taking great care. If the culprit used a ladder or something, it probably wouldn't be impossible for them to attack from the second floor, but it wouldn't be easy for them to break those sturdy shutters from such an insecure position. The second floor was relatively safe compared to the first. Badwa and George had also wanted to remain on the first floor so that they could fight if the worst happened, but Ava had put a stop to that. In her mind, George was now the only member of her family. It seemed that she didn't even want to expose him to the danger of coming downstairs to the first floor. Kraus and Natsui could understand that feeling. Also, a great deal of time had passed since the siege began. In the second-floor cousin's room, Batwood, George, and Jessica sat dazed, and didn't even listen to the TV that had been left on. For a while, Nanjo had been with them and had tried to lend them words of encouragement. But when he realized that he might actually be having the opposite effect, he hid himself in his own room on the same second floor. George kept looking dazedly at the photographs inserted in his notebook. It was from the time he'd taken a vacation to Okinawa with Shannon. Shannon's happy smile was contained in those photos.
Aw. Poor Shannon and George.
George could remember the temperature and the humidity, the warmth and strength of the wind, and even what he had been talking about with her at the time those photos had been taken, as clearly as though it had been yesterday. So to George, they weren't simply photos, but a door to bring back warm memories. In this room, even though the sound of the typhoon and the TV should have entered George's hearing, it was the scenery of Okinawa he had seen with her and her laughing voice that reached his eyes and his ears. George had strived to be reborn after meeting Shannon. He had sworn to separate himself from the timid person he had once been, easily caught up in the atmosphere, unable to refuse a request, and easily used by those around him. He had resolved himself to become a strong man who could make her life more joyous. Therefore, if he hadn't met Shannon, the man called Ushiwomiya George would probably have lived a very different life. And the George of that different life surely wouldn't have been as excellent a man as he is now.
The person I am now exists for Shannon's sake. Now that Shannon is gone, why do I exist? It's completely meaningless, isn't it?
He felt a deep, deep sadness, as though he himself had become empty. That feeling must have been tormenting him this whole time. However, until Batwa mentioned it, he hadn't been aware of the feeling himself. He finally managed to remember that it should have been all right for him to cry much, much more. So he cried. Just like Batwa had, he cried himself dry. By now, his eyes were bright red and swollen, and he couldn't cry anymore. So George did his best to change his way of thinking. He was not meaningless now, and he should be grateful to Shannon for giving him such a character. The dead don't come back to life. He would have to get over being separated from his most beloved person. If he were to chase after Shannon and kill himself, she would surely be deeply dejected. It worked the other way around too. If he had died, and Shannon had chased after him, throwing away her own life, he wouldn't have been able to forgive himself. So he chose to surpass his sadness and anger, and decided to thank her instead. After meeting Shannon, she made his days rich and full, and taught him the meaning of working hard for other people's sakes. As a result, she had shaped him into the kind of person he had wanted to be. He wanted to thank her for that. He tried to quell his sadness in this way, but each time he did, he remembered Shannon's smile. He understood it logically. He knew that grieving any more than this would only make her grieve in heaven, but that didn't bring a stop to his sadness. Aww.
Damn, dude. This is, very, very deep. Now I think I know why he set up this relationship.
The what shit?
The
relationship.
Why he kind of set up this relationship, because it has like an emotional impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's probably wisdom in it too. Like women kind of like regulate men and stuff like that. Like basically women help men to kind of actually become useful. I think that's what it is. Alright, anyway, here's Battler. Why is it that when people die, it's so sad like this?
I'm recording. Okay. Badwer muttered. It was as though he was speaking on behalf of all humans. His question probably hadn't been directed at anyone, but Jessica answered.
It's always sad when you have to say goodbye. But when the person's old, or there's some time when you know beforehand that it's coming sooner or later, that sadness gets spread out over a long period of time. When When misfortune comes suddenly, it's sad because you don't even get that time. I see. So if they get sick or something and end up bedridden in the hospital, you might be able to ready yourself for it bit by bit. But when it happens suddenly someday, you don't get that luxury. The sadness that's usually spread out over several years closes in on you all at once. That's pretty tough. Sometimes it makes you feel sadness so deep it can leave scars for life. Scars for life, huh? Damn. Like grandfather's occult hobby, people say that's what caused it. That Beatrice, his mistress, died a long time ago, and he was so sad that he couldn't pull himself together. Some people whisper that this is why he started sacrificing the rest of his life to occult research in order to revive the dead. If that's true, grandfather succeeded in that miracle in his last moments. The culprit is the revived Beatrice, and grandfather was reunited with her at the moment he was killed. Whoa, dude. Pretty ironic that he revived her, and then got killed by her. What a loser. Even so, grandfather probably managed to meet her. He gambled half of his life, and, even though it was only for a short time, he was reunited with the woman he wished to see once again. Then he got totally roasted, though. Feels like that result doesn't quite add up to the cost of researching for half his life. That's not true. Even if it was only for an instant, grandfather must have been happy to be reunited with the person he loved. And that would be true, even if his crime of going against divine providence was punished by God, and his body was burnt and sent down to hell. Even if that reunion only lasted a very short time, right? George, I wouldn't care I met with the wrath of God and had my body burned, even if it was just for a short amount of time. If I could revive Shannon again, I would sacrifice the rest of my life to the same research as grandfather. I want to talk to Shannon again, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Even 1 minute would be fine. In exchange, I wouldn't mind sacrificing the rest of my life. Anarchy.
When Badwell and Jessica realized that their pointless discussion was causing George pain, they could do nothing more than shut their mouths. George directed his thoughts to Kinzo's wife. He sacrificed half his life to research that no one understood, and on the last day of his life, he revived the person he loved most, and probably succeeded in his reunion in his final moments. George didn't know how much time they'd had together. He didn't know if they'd been given an hour, or just 5 minutes. However, that moment must have been enough to reward him for all those months of research. Even though he spent dozens of years to achieve it, that small amount of time was probably more than worth it to him.
Wait.
I think it's Battler.
Battler? Okay. Until today, I never believed in the occult or magic or anything. Somewhere in my heart, I even made fun of grandfather's research, thinking of it as nothing more than a pastime. However, I think this is actually George. However,
Maybe. Probably.
I won't make fun of it anymore. No, to the contrary, I believe strongly that it's real. Magic is real. If the power of magic can create miracles, I'll probably throw away all my studies up until today, spending the rest of my life from today onwards studying magic.
George.
Yeah. Give me the power of magic. And give me the miracle that let me see Shannon again. He's gonna actually become Harry Potter, dude! Oh my god! Ha! Sorry, you two. What am I talking about? If you could revive the dead with magic, people would probably be researching it everywhere around the world. But things like that don't exist in reality. No one researches it. That's because they know the dead can't be revived with magic. Sorry for saying something so weird. It's my fault the atmosphere has gotten so strange. Sorry for making you tiptoe around me, even though this is tough for us all. Even if I did it to divert myself from my sadness, maybe I did say something strange. If I keep talking about stuff that's so weird, I'm sure it won't do anything good for their sadness. But that doesn't mean I can't bear this silence. I'll go downstairs and get another cup of coffee. Mom's very particular about how she likes hers. Does anyone else want a refill?
Batwa and Jessica whitely shook their heads. Oh fuck, it's still George.
Oh shit.
This whole thing, it's George is the main character now.
No, George is the main character now! Dude, remember first episode when I thought that George was the main character?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, dude! Without pressing him any further, I took my mug and left the room. And went downstairs to get a nice hot cup of
And I found all the parents dead.
All the parents are dead! No, dude! My mom! Alright. It's probably still me, yeah?
Yeah.
The shutters were all closed in the hallway, so the corridor was very dim. I tried visiting Dr. Nanja's room and asking him if he wanted more coffee, but he said he didn't need any either. It seems my mother's orthodox method of making coffee isn't universally appreciated. One time I made some for Shannon, but she told me that while it was delicious, it was a little strong. Shannon. That's no good. Even though I left the room to change my mood, that image of Shannon's face filling my head hasn't faded in the slightest. I kept seeing those fun days with her more and more vividly, and it's saddening that I never even got the chance to see her dead face. According to our parents, she was apparently killed with something like a gun or a spear. I'm sure they were just trying to console me, but they had said her dead face had been very beautiful and peaceful. I wonder if she had the engagement ring I gave her last night on her finger. If she accepted my engagement, she should have had it on
Is he
the
gonna
ring
fucking
finger.
go and check?
Yeah, you can go and check.
He's gonna go and check.
On the ring finger of her left hand. Oh shit, he's gonna die when he checks! No, don't check, George! It's a trap! Last night we were both on the edge of losing it and not calm at all. Shannon accepted my engagement pretty courageously, but she might have regretted that as a rash action once she cooled her head. She might have taken the ring off. I wonder if she has the ring on now. I want to be sure of at least that much. I want to know how she felt at the very end. But even if I do confirm that, it doesn't mean she'll come back. I wonder what will happen to her body. After the autopsy, it will probably be immediately cremated. Then I'll never be able to see her face, even a dead face, for all eternity. As the shock of losing Shannon made me go a little crazy. I don't want her body to be burned. If she burns and turned to ash never again, will it be possible for her to revive? They say cremation is frowned upon in Western traditions, because on the day of resurrection there would be nobody to revive. Because of that, it seems that great criminals in Western history were often cremated after execution as a punishment, and the ashes were sometimes scattered in rivers and such. In other words, to Western people, death is nothing more than a sleep until the resurrection. It is essential that the corpse is left after death. In other words, that's because Western people knew of a miracle that can revive the dead. But because that miracle doesn't exist in Japan, we burn them. Now I understand. I understand why Grandfather idealized the Western occult. That was his only reason from the very beginning, just to revive the person dear to him. Father spent the rest of his remaining life researching the Western occult. This situation surrounding us now is abnormal. Grandfather did revive his beloved Beatrice, and that Beatrice has carried out a terrible serial murder, with linked closed rooms that force us to conclude that magic was used. The Golden Witch Beatrice, the incarnation of the miracle of the Western occult, and also the culprit who killed Shannon. She's an entity I should hate, and yet for some reason I want to cling to her. I wonder if Shannon could be revived with the magic of miracles which Grandfather bet his life on. According to the legend of the Ushirimiya family, Grandfather met with her long ago, and was given a vast quantity of gold. Then, if I also met with her, instead of gold would she give me Shannon's life? As collateral, I don't care what sort of devil's contracts she imposed. I wouldn't mind sacrificing all my remaining life. Kind of goes a little Australian here, feels weird.
George probably couldn't believe or realize that his voice was heard by the witch herself, who stood right behind him.
Oh my wa mo shinderu!
Beatrice had been listening to that entire discussion between the children just now in the cousin's womb. Batware told her that she didn't know the value of a human's life, and wanting to understand that in her own way, she had stealthily visited listening in on their discussion.
Shit, that makes complete and utter sense.
Yeah, exactly. That is your wish, you say? If I could grant that, would I be accepted as a witch? Beato looked at the palms of both of her hands. She had handed over most of her once surging magical power, with the new witch succeeded the name of the Endless Witch. Of course, her current power still made her worthy of being called a witch, but it could not begin to compare to her previous strength. Even without the endless magic, I am a great witch whose name has been thundered for 1,000 years. Reviving the dead will be no trouble at all. Inside her head, she thought about several magical steps she could take to revive the dead. Even magic that should have been easy in the past would be difficult with her current power. She thought of something, then clicked her tongue, then did so again, over and over. In the end, she finally thought of a single spell. But that was a spell that she couldn't use by herself. It was a spell the witches with weak power used, one that relied on the age of others. In the past, Beato looked down upon that type of magic. Therefore, she frantically tried to search for any conceivable alternative. But in the end, she couldn't think of one and slumped over in self-derision. Then, careful not to surprise him, she softly called out, softly to George's heart. Hi, Georgie.
Oh my
Want a
god.
balloon?
What the fuck? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Beatrice is literally like, okay, if you look at all of this shit, it looks like Beatrice is literally like the Endless Witch is the manifestation of the fucking id. Like in Freudian psychology. Like that's what it is. Like pleasure seeking, impulsive, violent.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Ushiro Mia George, can you hear my voice?
I can hear you. Who are you? Are you really the witch Beatrice? Or are you an illusion created by my sorrow? Or an archetype in my brain? If it's the former, please hear my wish. And if it's the latter, just leave me alone.
The conversation in a mental world was a lot like having one in a dream. When you dream, haven't you ever had the experience of casually accepting something that would have been absurd in the real world?
Mm-hmm.
The conversation in this world was like that, so even though a witch appeared and started talking to George, he was not surprised. Indeed, I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. Normally, you and I would not be able to talk together in this manner. However, you are strongly conscious of me and wish to have discussion, so both of our channels are able to match like this.
I don't care if the person who killed Shannon was you, or someone else using your name. As long as you exist as a real witch. I'll pay whatever it costs you to ask for. If you desire my life, take it right now. Please, I want you to bring Shannon back to life. If that's possible, I'd be satisfied if you just let me talk to her for a short while. Please. Please.
I ask for nothing in return. I shall grant that wish.
Wow, really? Huh. Really? Really, you'll revive Shannon?
Indeed. However, my current magical power is not sufficient to use the magic of resurrection. Therefore, I must rely on your help.
If there's anything I can do, I'll do it. Even if that means taking my heart out right here now, I will not hesitate.
I told you, I don't need anything like that. I will chant the magic, then a gap will open in the door to the land of the dead. But as I am now, I do not have the power to bring Shannon's soul up through that gap. However, you have strong feelings for Shannon, and those feelings will surely become magic that can bring her soul out without fail. What do you say? Will you help me?
I will. If Shannon's life will be restored, there's nothing I'm afraid to lose.
George's fist shook in silence. Then he slowly came to his senses. He had been absent-minded while standing near the window in the hall that whole time, his mug still in his hand. And the witch from his dream was still there.
Oh, what the? It isn't a dream. What?
Be quiet. I am very fragile now. If any more humans appear, I will not be able to preserve this form. I shall grant your wish, so stay silent for now. Understood? George covered his mouth with both hands, nodding enthusiastically several times. In that instant, he almost dropped the mug he was holding. George frantically juggled it around and caught it. He was afraid that if it fell to the floor and made a loud sound, the witch's form might disappear like a bubble popping. He softly set the mug on the floor and stared at the witch in front of him again. Her form didn't disappear. It wasn't a dream. Come, let us go to the parlor where Shannon sleeps. With the power of your feelings, we will bring back her soul.
You say go, but ow, my mother and the rest are downstairs. There's no way they'd let us go outside. And didn't you just say that you wouldn't be able to preserve your form if another human appeared?
Come to think of it, that is true. So Kraus and the rest are downstairs. In that case, we definitely cannot go down. Well then, we just need to go to the mansion without going down to the first floor, right? It's simple. Beato laughed as though she had thought of a pleasant prank. And with her golden pipe, she lightly tapped a window with its shutter closed. When she did, 3 gold butterflies appeared from the pipe and opened the walk on the window as though melting it.
Sneaking out through the window.
Then the window opened without a sound. The shutter beyond it was exactly the same. The clasp unset itself, also without making a sound, and it quietly opened. The window opened, exposing the wind and rain outside the mansion. Perhaps because of the direction or something related to the construction of the building, the wind did not blow inside. Because of that, for a while, George felt as though this entrance that opened to the outside was a dream or an illusion, and he couldn't accept it as real. Come, let us go. Come with me. Beato gently floated upwards. It was a natural action, like that of a diver enjoying an underwater stroll. It made it easy to believe that if you acted like she did, you too might be able to float in the sky, just as though you are swimming through the water. We all float down here, Georgie. No, George did believe that. So without thinking, just as she had done, he also, gently, as though swimming in the water, lifted his feet. Oh, not bad. So, you learned how to dance in the sky faster than I could explain it. George was shocked to find himself floating in midair like he was swimming. He is Harry Potter.
He's
course.
fucking like doing the front crawl.
Beato was also shocked that George, who shouldn't have been able to use magic, had figured out how to do that just by instinct.
To be able to fly in the air, to swim in the air.
You mustn't be bound by reason. Accept it as a natural thing. You mustn't fall back to your human doctrines such as those of Newton and Einstein. Especially when flying high in the sky, inexperienced witches sometimes plummet to the earth.
I accept things for what they appear to be. I accept things for what they appear to be.
George repeated those words over and over. You must not deny magic no matter what.
What a fuck, man.
Denying that would be like throwing away what might be his first and last chance to revive Shannon. However, compared to Beato, who was elegantly drifting like smoke, George's movements clearly resembled someone underwater. Therefore, if he didn't act like he was kicking his feet in water every once in a while, he'd be caught by the force of gravity bit by bit. I must say you're doing better than when I first danced through the sky. Here we go. Come with me. When Beato beckoned to George, she gently flew into the stormy sky. It was just like a scene from a fairy tale. The scene unfolding before George's eyes felt entirely like an extension of his dream.
Being able to fly is incredible, but so is the wind and the rain.
What's this? Are the wind and rain tormenting you? I could teach you magic to block against that, but it may be too early for you, and it may be a misuse of time right now.
Yes, the magic I need isn't that. It's something else.
George wore a strong-willed gaze, refusing to let the wind and rain get to him. The mansion is coming into sight. Hold out just a little longer. If you fall now, you'll hit the bushes in the rose garden. The undulating rose garden was spread beneath the witch and George's gaze. This illusion-like scene no longer surprised George. Only the gradually approaching mansion was reflected in his eyes.
Shannon, wait for me. I will definitely revive you.
Do you think Shannon will revive?
I don't know, dude.
At that time, The cruel new witch could be seen staring at the guest house from a different location.
Now, all that is left in the 7th and 8th Twilights, just 2 more, my obligation to that old hag predecessor is finished. I'll kill Kraus and Natsui, let them die together like the good couple they are.
Where's the target, yeah? In the lobby on the first floor of the guest house, 2 targets and Iwishiri Ava identified. Measuring anti-magic power levels. Data linked to 410. 410, data received. Anti-magic power levels are extremely low. If Ava just goes outside, they're tuna and abalone on a chopping board. What do you think, great Lady Beatrice? When you give the order, we shall snipe right away. Please, your orders.
You guys really are convenient furniture. Not at all like that old second-hand furniture that's only useful for gouging corpses, right? Chester sisters, please show me your skill once more. Prepare to fire. And carry out the corpses again, got it? Because I play with them a lot. No complaints from you, right, Runaway?
Correct. As you command. At that moment, the witch noticed something. It was as though some presence had disappeared. Was it her imagination?
That's stupid. Was that someone's present just now? Did anyone feel it?
My apologies. I haven't noticed anything, so please forgive me. We were in the middle of observing the guest house, so our peripheral surveillance was set to off, Nihi. What about you, Lucifer, Chan? Did you feel any presence? For just an instant, Lucifer glanced at Wonave, asking whether she should answer honestly or not. Wonave gave a small nod in response. No. My apologies, Beatrice. We noticed nothing. Forgive us the stupidity of our second-hand furniture.
I see. If a great demon like you says that, then it must have been my imagination.
The witch persistently stared in the direction the presence had disappeared to. That was where the Rose Garden lay, and beyond that she could see the mansion's dark silhouette created by lightning. It took quite some time before she pushed her unsatisfied feelings aside, and once again faced the guest house. The end.
Jesus Christ, dude. I see what people mean by getting, like, crazy and, like, super fast, because it gets, like, so complicated that you have to actually, like, you can't play the game. You gotta play the meta game. That's what you really gotta be playing here.
The metagame.
Yeah, the meta game. It's like the game that's above the game.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's a game.
Yeah.
It's pretty complicated right from the first episode, but he hides it.
Yeah, it's pretty much
a lot of this stuff was like planned before, like when he started.
Yeah, when he started, yeah. But now it's delving into a realm in which it's probably easier to understand in terms of story rather than tangible reality.
Yeah. That's something that he likes doing, even with Higurashi. He starts it, and there's a whole bunch of hidden stuff that you don't know about.
Right, yeah. So all I gotta do is piece together the story in a way that makes sense in actual reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that I understand his method, maybe I can work backwards. Alright, well...
Well, do you have any ideas on how Rose and Maria were killed?
Jeez.
I know how they were killed. I think that Maria was strangled. And I
Yes.
think that Rosa was thrown on the spike of the fence.
Yep, that's how they did die. But the question is, who done it?
Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, sure. That wasn't... I just want to know how they died.
Yeah, so I'm thinking... Someone... So... Who... What's her name again? Rosa. Rosa would have had to have been lifted and, like... Or have her head, like... How tall is the fence? Like, head height, roughly? A little bit lower than head height?
Head height? How tall is the gate? I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
gate that
The
that
fence?
Rosa.
I have no clue.
You have no clue, so it doesn't really matter. I think it definitely has to be some like man who like does this sort of thing. It's like that brutal.
And Rudolph was alive at the time.
Rudolph was alive at the time.
But if anyone who you say did it, then you'd have to assume that the other people who were in their group are accomplices.
Yeah, in on it as well. And so that leads to very strange things happening because it seems like Hideyoshi and Natsui are kind of naive as to, you know, what's really going on, but Ava and Kraus kind of understand. And the same thing with Rudolph and Kyrie. It's like they know what's going on. And in fact, they operated in a very different way from how George operated when they saw the witch, I guess, or yeah. Reacted in a very different way. Well, I don't know who killed them. I think it either has to be Nanjo, Kraus, or Rudolph who killed the two. Who killed Rosa and Maria.
Nanjo climbed out the window.
Yep, it's a possibility. You know? Like the way that Beatrice is taking George, they climbed out the window. So
they flew out the window. They flew out the window. George jumped out the window and started flying.
I think he just like jumped out the window and like climbed down. That just makes the most sense. It just walked. But yeah, the reason I think it's mostly Nanjo's because Nanjo's like the biggest guy there, like biggest like physically.
For you.
Like, what do you mean?
It's a meme. It's a meme from the Batman movie with Bane.
I actually haven't watched the Batman movie.
Oh well, someone tells Bane, "You're a big guy," and then Bane's like, "For you."
Oh yeah, okay. Kind of smug. Alright. Or it could have been Hideyoshi? I don't think it's Hideyoshi. But it's really fucking weird. Like, how... Because it looks like Ava's the one killing people, but... It's so weird. It's hard to get at it. It's like she's... I also like... Maybe it isn't even Ava. Maybe it's not Ava. Maybe this is just how Ava symbolically represents the way that people die. In her dreams. Since she's like dreaming all the time. Fuck. Yeah, I think I've hit a stump. I don't really know where to go from here.
Okay.
Alright. Hit a roadblock.
Okay, goodbye everybody.
Goodbye. Thanks for watching.